You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the We Are Libertarians Network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Morrell, and as always, I'm joined by our co-host, Dakota Davis.
Hey, how's it going, Jer?
Man, I'm well-traveled this week.
Are you?
I am. We'll talk about it in a second. Our show is about our lives in rural Indiana. It's a show about folks who are involved in politics. We promise that our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. We interview people who are influencers, elected officials, political experts, and folks that we just find to be interesting. On my left is co-host Danny Morrell in the third chair. Welcome, Danny.
Hey, guys.
How we doing?
Doing well.
Your Cubs are 1-0?
1-0. Started off with a leadoff home run and just enjoying the rain.
There you go. It's been raining all day. So the guy who's apparently causes all the rain in the county is the county commissioner, Butch Baker. He's with us today. How are we doing, Butch?
We're doing fine, and we got plenty of rain.
We got plenty of rain.
Yep. That was going to be my very first question for you. Is with your power as commissioner, is there anything you can do about the rain? Like, can you just stop it? Put a dome over Henry County?
Correct answer to that is no. Can't do
no. It takes all three commissioners to vote on that, and they can't agree on anything.
That's
right. Not just one guy.
That's the way it goes. Yeah.
There's not a county mayor.
No, not yet. Although I've heard talk of trying to have a county executive. So far, we just have the three.
But he lives out there.
But no, we're still trying to get him on the show. He's Danny's neighbor. All right. Anyway. It's been a busy week. Since we were here last, I took a flight out to Washington, D.C., hung out there for 3 days. Dakota, you've been over here rebuilding our studio again,
yep.
Making upgrades.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm dragging, but I'm here.
You're dragging?
I'm dragging a little bit.
Fire-breathing? Fire-breathing dragon.
Tuesday night, I was back, and Sarah's like, "You look tired." I was like, "I am tired. I've been all over the state of Indiana, the state of Maryland, the state of Virginia, and the District of Columbia."
Yeah, that's right. We recorded a new bumper for the We Are Libertarians podcast for that we are syndicated through, and I sent you a message and was like, "Hey, did you get that out yet?" And you're like, "No, I've been busy." I'm like, "Really, Jared? Like, get it together, man. It's not like you've been in Washington D.C. for 3 days." Like,
exactly.
That was so. Who'd you go out there for?
So I went out with Purdue's School of Agriculture, a group called P-Carrot, and they advocate for land grant universities like Purdue or the people that deliver extension or the 4-H program across the country. So there's like 57 land grant universities. Pretty much every state has at least one, and those guys are the ones that that do research, and then it's basically evidence-based research, and then they extend that back out to counties. So every county in the state has something like the Purdue Extension Office that you see in Henry County, Delaware County, and all over the 92 counties and pretty much everywhere in the country. So it's a really neat group, well-run volunteer organization. Had a lot of fun out there with about 35 delegates. We stayed out there for 2 nights, got to hear from a number of different experts from Congress, a lot of aides, staff members for the Ag Committee, and different members of Congress. Their staff members came in to talk to us. Chase Kitchen is the lead ag guy for Senator Joe Donnelly. He came and met with our group again, and a handful of others. Lots and lots of Purdue researchers, and the dean, Karen Plout, the dean of ag, or the interim dean of ag. She was with our group. So we got to hang out with those guys. Actually, we were talking about this rain, and there's a Purdue research program they're looking at. They're trying to figure out if crop subsidies, which we've talked about a lot of different ag issues on this show with Cade, if crop subsidies, like for crop insurance, if we're actually retarding the market and saying, hey, instead of having to deal with rain that comes in on your property and you flood, or say you come into a drought, if maybe we can do a better job of encouraging farmers to save the water that falls in their fields instead of trying to put it out into a tile and out into a ditch. Maybe the right answer is to encourage farmers to actually put retention ponds on their ground, save the water, and then use that in the summertime. So you don't have to go back through and divert the water in the spring. You save it, hold on to it, and then if you're going to have drought conditions later in the summer, then you come back through and you actually use that for irrigation.
And we know from the state senator Mike Crider episode that the correct way to do that would not be creating a law, but instead, gently nudging and encouraging. That's kind of what I'm getting out of that.
Well, but there's also different ways, not at the state level, but with incentives, because the federal government's involved in crop insurance programs as well. You could also have a carrot and a stick on that as well. So,
but also if it was made affordable to the farmers, if it would help them out in the long run, then they may be more apt to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and if they, once again, they're studying that now, and they're going to spend 2 or 3 years researching to see what results come of that. But long term, that may be a solution to, as a county commissioner, you guys end up dealing with ditches and runoff and flooding, and it's a big thing today because we're getting biblical amounts of rain in the last couple of days.
Yep.
It's definitely good to have organizations that are out there researching, gathering information so that we have a clue.
And I would rather see that happen than government dictate to them that they have to do something. But they might be good and might be profitable for them, but at the same time, when you try to push somebody to do something, you have a tendency to alienate them too.
Yeah,
right.
It's a lot easier to lead somebody than to push a rope on them.
Sure it is.
You're a horse guy now.
Yeah. Well, I don't have to put a rope on my horse. I just walk out there and he just follow me around. So we're good.
Follows you with the feed bucket.
Yeah.
Oh man! So then, while I was in Washington, the other cool thing that happened is I got you. If you're a subscriber on the iTunes feed, you see that there's a bonus episode with myself and a guy named Steve Solomon, who works at SB Nation and the Team 980 in Washington D.C. Monday night, I went to Rockville, Maryland, and got to record an episode of the Steve Solomon Show. So that was in his very premium podcast feed, and it's in the Boss Hog of Liberty feed. Just because you guys are good folks.
Really good show too. You really did a good job on there, especially describing the differences between Henry County politics and a county that has millions of people in it. That was really interesting.
He's in Rockville, Maryland, which is Montgomery County, which is one of the 10 wealthiest counties in the country. They have a county budget, Butch, of over $4 billion a year.
Not like ours.
Yeah, no. No, their problems have more zeros at the end. Yeah, it's just unreal. They don't have just county roads, but they've got an entire train system as well, which I was a total rookie at. I was going back and forth with an IndyCar friend of mine today who works for NASA. He's literally a NASA weatherman, Will McCarty, and he lives in Silver Springs. And I said, I made a mistake. I took the. This is going to sound like an episode of the Californians. I took the Green Line train to the Red Line. And it looks like Florida, and I took it up the east coast of the train line because it goes all the way up the east side, then down around through Washington and back up. And I screwed up and took the wrong way, so I had like 20 minutes to my train ride because I'm an idiot. So, anyway, but it was cool. It was fun to go. I really enjoyed it. I'll have if you follow me on Facebook, I'll have some pictures of my time out there. Got to meet with Congressman Messer's aides and Congressman Carson's aides as well. In their office building. So Congress isn't in session right now, so they're all back home running for re-election like Butch is. But it was still neat to go. It was kind of like there was nobody really paying attention, so you could go around. We broke into the House Ways and Means Committee room, so we checked out where they raise our taxes on the regular. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's a once a year thing. If you're really good friends with Jeremiah, then every year, whenever he goes to Washington, D.C., you know that your phone's going to get flooded with messages and pictures of him and his group from Washington, D.C. And it's like it's like you have some secret access because you're in all these different rooms taking pictures in congressmen's offices and things. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat program.
It's a good trip. And we did on the Sunday night, we had a little bit of time and we went to the mall. The mall, if you've never been to Washington, it really is a good trip. And they've got all kinds of different memorials. And it was the first time I've seen the Vietnam War Memorial, and I was not prepared. Have you had a chance to go yet?
Yes, I've seen it before.
I knew about the traveling memorial, and I knew they had individual panels, but I had never been to the actual war memorial. And I really wasn't prepared. It was the most moving memorial I've ever been to because it's the type on the font of the names that are on there. Everybody that lost their lives in the war, their name is on the monument. Mm-hmm. It's a single wall. It's all on grade, so you're walking along the mall on grade, at level, and then the wall just starts, and it's just one name tall. And the more you walk, the deeper and deeper and deeper it gets.
Wow,
and you get to the point where you're so far underground, you're like 10 to 15 feet underground, and the names are they're just maybe 3/4 of an inch tall. So it was rough.
Wow.
Still tons of people out there, and it's a very active monument where there are people leaving flowers and albums and. memorabilia and pictures, and it was rough. I was not prepared for that at all. So definitely worth visiting. So that was my Washington trip. I'll have some pictures posted, and folks can check that out. But all of that is free too. The Smithsonian's, the war memorials. It's definitely worth the trip.
If you're in the Boss Hog of Liberty Inner Circle group, you already got to see all the pictures.
There's a handful in there for sure.
Yeah, so there's a little plug for that. Make sure you join that group so that you can see everything that's going on in our personal lives. We put it all out there on the line for everybody.
So while I was away, you spent some money on the studio.
I did.
And you put together a new program. What's this big announcement we've been talking about?
Well, okay, so the first thing first of all, we need to address the elephant in the room. Which
his name is Butch. He's right here.
He just has an R next to his name. That's why
it's the GOP elephant.
Well, that is the giant banner that says it is your birthday.
It is your birthday.
And we have a chocolate cake with one candle on it that my wife, Audrey Peavy. Oh, my goodness. I do that all the time whenever I'm talking to her.
Start over.
It's Audrey Jo Davis.
Yeah, we're going to restart the live stream now. No, it's just Audrey Davis. There's no hyphen. And it is our birthday.
It is. 50th episode, 1 year anniversary this week of the launch of this tiny little podcast that started with you, me, Audrey, Sarah, and Chris Spangle in my sunroom by the aquarium.
That's true. We've come a long way in 1 year. We were in your sunroom, and then we started doing poolside, and now all of a sudden we're in a studio in my spare bedroom. And we have brand new microphones.
We've got lights and big time elected officials like Butch Baker that hang out with us.
That's true.
And we hold them hostage for the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show.
No problem.
This is where we make you comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable.
There we go. Mission accomplished.
All right. So what's this? What are we doing? We got a big Patreon announcement.
That's right. So nobody knows yet. We didn't launch it early or anything, but the Boss Hog of Liberty now has a Patreon account, and I'm looking at it right now on the laptop. There's multiple tiers that you can go to. I just set it up while Jeremiah was gone. You're going to see a nice greeting message from us, a nice video from us that says, please donate to our cause. But there's a couple of different goals that we have with this Patreon
account. What's a Patreon do? If people have no idea what Patreon is, what's Patreon about?
Well, that's a good thing to point out. So a Patreon account is where creators like all of us here at Boss Hog of Liberty, we can set up an account and create different tiers of rewards and monthly donations.
So we incentivize our listeners to help keep this show on the air, so we don't have to come to Butch and be like, "Hey, Butch, we want to be the PBS of Henry County, and we want you all to write checks to pay for our podcast."
That's correct. Yeah. So
we're independent media.
We are. We're a very independent media. We are the independent media that, as far as I'm concerned, of Henry County. We're the only people that are having Butch Baker in our studio and filming this, putting it on Facebook, on YouTube, so that people can make informed decisions.
Or the spare bedroom.
Yeah,
there you go.
Or the spare bedroom. It just depends on what you want to call it. But that's actually one of the goals, Danny. We're trying. One of the main reasons that we're trying to set up this Patreon account is so that eventually we can build our own studio, our own separate building to have a studio in with world-class internet that we have available here, and basically just make everything about the show better.
Now, is this a mistake? It says we're trying to move to Spiceland, Indiana, so we can have Darren Jacobs as our personal overlord. What is this about?
That is not a mistake. Well, we're trying to get to Spiceland because we just want to give Darren some property taxes. So, just a little kickback for Darren. We've been way too harsh on him here. No, so that's definitely the goal. That's our $500 a month goal.
We need $500 a month for everybody, or we're just trying to get to $500 a month?
We're just trying to get to $500 a month. We get thousands of people that listen to this podcast. If everybody just donated $5 a month, that would be huge.
Welcome to church.
Father Davis.
So the $500 a month is our big goal. Our first goal is to hit $150 a month. If we hit $150 a month, my wife Audrey came up with the idea that me and her will sit down in the studio and produce a second episode every week. So every Tuesday, Audrey and I are going to sit down, the listeners, the people that subscribe and donate to the show, are the ones that are going to be able to listen to this podcast, and they are going to be the ones that are able to pick out the actual topic.
So they get to decide what you guys talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how much money do they have to spend for me to show up on a Tuesday night?
I don't know. I think that one of the main reasons that we're doing this on a Tuesday is it's not going to be video, so that I can still stay in my pajamas and my wife beater tank tops while we record the episodes. I don't have to get all dressed up and fancy for Tuesdays.
I'm glad you put on pants because Butch is here. Normally, when Dakota does the show, he just wears his nice shirt and that's it.
That's right.
He's not wearing the pants on the air.
It's like Anchorman.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of different tiers that everybody can go to. You can go through it. Go to patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. We're going to post a link on the Boss Hog of Liberty Facebook page. We're definitely going to make it known. I created some artwork so that we can kind of advertise this a little bit more. But it is actually it is very important that we get this going, because it's what's going to keep the show alive, and it's how we're going to keep producing this media source for everybody that listens in this area, this county, this district. If you've ever listened, just help support us. It's a really big deal.
So people can go to patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty to get more information on that, or to be in the show notes later.
That's correct.
All right. That's enough public shilling at this point. We probably ought to talk to Butch a little bit.
Commercial's over with?
Commercial's over.
Hey, good. How are you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand.
All right. So let's get to know Butch. You've been a fixture in county government now for about the last 12 years or so. You've been elected as you're at the end of your first term as county commissioner.
Yes.
So you're on the May ballot, and then probably on the November ballot if you win the Republican primary.
If I win the Republican primary, yes.
And then you served 8 years as county sheriff.
Yes.
And before that, you spent some time as an investigator for the prosecutor's office, and then you spent some time with the Newcastle Police.
Yes.
So walk us through how you get to this point, how you get into law enforcement, and then what the progression is to learn, to get the experience you have and to get to this point in county government.
Well, you get into law enforcement at the beginning. You get into it because your father, who's a police officer, tells you go do something else. And as a young person, you never listen to your dad, so you do exactly the opposite of what he tells you to do. So I went into law enforcement, and at the age of 21, I started with the Newcastle Police Department, and I spent 20 years with the police department, and I was under the old plan, so it's like the military, you're 20 and out, and at the end of 20 years, you can retire. So
you're a 41-year-old retiree.
I'm a 41-year-old retiree, and the reason I made that choice to retire at age 41, not because I wanted to get out of law enforcement, because I still loved it. There was never a day, and has never been a day in 39 years, that I didn't enjoy getting up and going to work. But at 41, I figured I might be more marketable to get another job and maybe work for another agency and be able to do another retirement at some point in time. So I left there, and I went to work for the prosecutor's office. And I had been working for the prosecutor's office as a part-time person for about a year and a half. So I started with them, and I spent 4 years at the prosecutor's office, and then
what kind of work were you doing with them?
Investigator.
Okay.
And basically running down some leads, mostly office work, processing all the paperwork from the state police and the Henry County Sheriff's Department, Newcastle Police Department, Nicetown, Middletown. If they executed an arrest on somebody, then basically the paperwork come in, and somebody had to write up the charges and make sure that they were correct with the state statutes, and then give them to the ladies to type up. So I would be the one primarily that would go through all those and process that. Occasionally, I would get assigned a case out of the prosecutor's office to assist. I was still on the homicide team, so did that kind of work. And then a newly elected sheriff, Kim Kronk, back in 1999, he came to me and hired me as his chief deputy, or as a rank of captain. So I went to work for him.
So that's when you joined the sheriff's department the first time?
That's when I joined the sheriff's department the first time, yes. And then I was with the sheriff's department throughout his 8 years as sheriff. And then I guess I ran for sheriff. It was never my intention to be sheriff. It was never my intention to run for any political office. But at that point in time, the opportunity was there, and that election there was 7 Republicans, all law enforcement officers, and we all ran for the same office.
You guys don't just arm wrestle and have a backroom deal on it?
Was that uncomfortable in the locker room at all?
No, not really. I mean, there was 3 troopers, a couple of them who had been retired, one who was not, and then there was the rest of us were county deputies.
So who ran? Was it like I don't know. Did Rick run at that time? Rick McCorkle, the current sheriff?
Rick ran at that time too. Yes.
And then
Landon Dean ran.
Landon is he a Democrat or Republican at that point?
I think he was Democrat. Well, no, maybe he was Democrat.
Okay.
But,
and then did Joe Wiley run? Maybe
Joe Wiley ran.
Yeah. He's the highway superintendent now.
Yeah, and he was a highway superintendent then.
Okay.
Retired state trooper. Let me see. Don May ran.
Okay.
And Elmer New ran, who was a detective with the sheriff's department at that time. So there was Nyla Cronk ran.
Yep.
She was a current, and as she still is today, she's a current trooper with the Indiana State Police. So that was sort of the gist of that, and we all ran, and it was a long, because somebody got a jump start. He started about a year too early.
You can start running as early as you want to, but there's a lot more paperwork involved.
Well, there's a lot more effort involved if you start running too early. You got double the fairs to go to, and double the parades to walk in, and double the amount of shirts you have to buy, and so it did. It started a year earlier than what most of the races normally started. So because Don May started early, then we all started early. So then we all followed suit.
Damn it, Don!
Yeah, and Don's a great guy. He really is a great guy, and a good competitor. And all in all, I mean, that race, although it was long, and it was probably the best time. As being in politics, it was the best time out of all of them that I've been involved in.
So then, in your time at the sheriff's department, you guys oversee. You have like 2 or 3 different major roles in running a sheriff's department. You have a jail that you look after. You are responsible for warrants and arrests, and then I guess there are some other administrative functions that you have as a sheriff.
Civil process.
Yeah.
As a sheriff, you got to manage the 100+ employees you have. You got to keep trying to hire them, especially correctional officers. That's a hard area to keep. It's not a fun job. And back when I was sheriff, it paid under $10 an hour, so that it was a difficult to try to keep. And Sheriff McCorkle today, he's still struggling, even though they've got the pay up a little bit. He's still struggling, trying to keep. It's not a field most people want to go into. It's not a career that they want to spend their life doing. So
I'd imagine you're competing because we have a state prison that's 3 miles north of your county jail. You're also competing for the same worker pool is also can potentially go up the street and go work for GEO.
That's true. But at the same time, the sheriff's department, while I was there and while Rick's there now, they, from time to time, we would get actually employees from GEO who came to work for us. Mm-hmm. Some part-time, some would come part-time, then quit that at GEO and come full-time. The pay difference isn't a whole lot different between them. And for whatever their reason was that they might want to leave GEO. And then we've had some that's left the sheriff's department and went to GEO. So it goes both ways.
So you were actually sheriff for 8 years, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then so obviously before that you still helped to really kickstart a lot of things that were going on within the county and the city. I have here on the show notes that in 1987 you helped establish the Area Drug Task Force, and in '89 you helped establish the emergency dispatch in the county.
Yes, I was with the Newcastle Police Department, and in '85 I got invited to attend the National Academy, FBI Academy at Quantico, and that was a 3-month training facility. So one of the things I came back with that I was armed with was information about federal grants, and there was a big push back then to try to do something on a local level multi-agency for substance abuse, drug task forces. So when I came back, I started working on that process as a Newcastle police officer. Again, it's multi-agency, so worked with the Henry County Sheriff's Department. Kim Cronk and myself together ended up being the co-directors and co-writers and co-founders of the Drug Task Force. And ballpark figure, I think our first grant was $240,000 or $250,000 that the federal government gave to us, and it was a multi-agency. There was actually 5 of us initially. There was 2 from the city, 2 from the county. We had representatives from Nicetown and Middletown. But as far as working a regular 40-hour plus hours a week drug task force, we had one state trooper. They were assigned to us, and the 5 of us conducted criminal investigations for substance. So,
did that fund the officers? Did that fund equipment or technology? What do those sorts of grants fund? What was the
mostly everything? Didn't fund automobiles. Luckily, we had a couple of local auto dealers who were gracious enough to say, you know what, we believe in what you guys are doing, and you can come and pick up a vehicle, and you can use that vehicle for a couple months, and then bring it back, and we'll give you another one.
So something like a Goodwin K car or something, an 87.
No, I had a 1972 Fury, green Fury, 4-door.
It was a new trade.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was a boat. It was a boat, but
you had to have just totally off track. I'm going to ruin everything, but you had to have some really cool old cop cars, right?
Oh, yeah, the old
you didn't always
Diplomats.
just have a Crown Vic. You had to have some other interesting stuff.
Being the Boss Hog of Liberty, we're pretty interested in old cop cars.
Yeah.
Well, and there have been a lot of old cop cars, and up until just recently, there was a whole junkyard, when I say junkyard, a scrapyard out there at the highway garage.
Yeah.
Now, I think recently, in the last year and a half, we've gotten rid of most of them. There's still a couple left out there, but we've managed to get them hauled off for scrap. That's after we've taken the engine out and put it in another car. When I was sheriff, engines, transmissions, differentials, that was all. We strip one car and make another one.
Which is chop shop. I like it.
Yeah.
What was the
He doesn't need it. It's a government car.
fastest you've had a cop car?
You would ask me that.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, probably the fastest police vehicle that I ever drove was and I don't remember what year it was. I'm going to say it was Camaro, and it was an undercover car. The second time I worked drug task force twice. I started it, and then I worked for it in a couple of years, and then I got promoted to the rank of assistant chief, and then through politics, new mayor came in, and I went back to captain.
You were no longer the assistant chief.
No longer assistant chief.
Yeah.
And that was okay. You go up, you go down. That's just part of it, So no longer the assistant chief. So
not going to vote for that mayor again.
Well, actually, they made me captain.
Yeah.
And that was okay. I was captain in charge of detective division. And then about a year and a half into it, the chief came to me. And he says, "Hey, the mayor wants me to offer you the assistant chief job back, and doing basically what I was doing there, but just a different title. And it would have been $1,000 raise, different title, but it would have also eliminated any overtime. And at that time, I was one of the few officers on the department that had homicide experience. So if there was a homicide, I was out. I was called out on it. So I would lose money." And only had about a year and a half left before my retirement. So I opted not to take the job back. I stayed where I was at, continued to run the detective division, and continued to conduct the homicides that took place in our county.
John Phillips just joined in the live chat. How was he as a reserve officer?
Not very good in a foot race.
All those guys that are reserves, you can't say enough about any of them. All of them have little expertises in different areas, and they all do an excellent job. And without them, the sheriff's department doesn't run. Unlike the city of Newcastle, it's a small geographical area, and the county is so wide and big. And when there's a project going on, you need those guys to help out. Even if it's a task that somebody might look at it and say, that's not really that important. Well, yeah, it is. It's very important. If we don't have them guys volunteering, not only do they volunteer, but a lot of that equipment they buy out of their own pocket. So it's not a lot of it's not even stuff that we furnish them. So those guys, they serve a fantastic.
Yeah, I've long time had a lot of respect for the reserve program, especially here in Henry County. Actually, whenever I was going to apply and was 20, so I couldn't because I had to be 21. Close. I was close, but I'm 22 now. But I think this podcast might take a little bit of my time from that. But I've always admired that. Always thought it was awesome that we had something like that here in Henry County. It's awesome. It's such a great program.
And there's training. I mean, the training that the Henry County Sheriff's Department puts them through is not only the state training that they're required, the 40 hours service training, but they do like a whole lot more training. Probably like 100 and some hours, 120 hours of additional training, and that they do with them. That really, I mean, it's similar to what the officers do that go to the academy. I mean, after a couple of years as being a reserve, I mean, you can send them out there and give them the project to do, and it's no different than sending out your line officers, your merit officers.
So in the live chat right now, we're getting a question, and you probably don't know this now, but what's the response time? Somebody out on at Greensboro Pike on the south side of town.
How fast that Camaro is?
Yeah,
that we didn't hear.
What you're driving?
What it was.
I like his question better. This was a police package Camaro, nice Camaro. Didn't look like nothing like a police car, and excess of 130.
Okay.
There you go.
So there's the answer.
A lot faster than I've ever gone in a car.
And
we talked
I
about
have
that.
no comment whatsoever.
We talked about that in the very first episode, the second episode of Boss Hog of Liberty, how fast we had each gone in vehicles before. Mine was 91.
91.
Yep.
Yeah. Now
It was downhill too, right?
It was in
you need
a
a faster car, Dakota.
It was in a Chevy Sonic, so
in the policies and procedures for the Newcastle Police Department and the Henry County Sheriff's Department, I think you'll find that the maximum speed that any officer is allowed to drive is.
Let me write this down real quick.
100. 100.
well,
Okay, 105 mile an hour.
But that doesn't account for the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can radio ahead if you're doing
And get the
105
next car.
and get the next car to get you. Them stop sticks, they work real good.
Yeah. Plus, I heard Landon Dean's car isn't calibrated right, so 100 for him is like 122.
Yeah, he's probably
He's
right.
pulled me
Very
over
quick.
a couple of times, and he's handled it really nicely. It's been good. I caught him on a good day.
Oh man, and not since Butch pointed him to the park board. Now he's just miserable all the time. All right. So one more thing we wanted to ask you about on the PACE team. It was the PACE team. 2010, you helped establish the Henry County PACE team, which is an interesting deal. You guys have a group that runs I-70. Our county, Henry County, has 3 exits on I-70, east to west interstate across the state of Indiana, and then I think it's at least 2 or 3 counties that are involved in the program.
Wayne County and Hancock County.
What do you guys do, or what does that organization do?
That was initially the brainchild of the sheriff of Hancock County, and Bud Gray, and he came over and contacted me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to assign or put somebody in the Interstate 70 loop just to do interdiction?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd entertain that." And he said that there was possible some grant money on the front end. As a sheriff, I made that decision. And I put an officer there. He put an officer there. Richmond, Wayne County did not participate. Richmond said they would commit to an officer, and they later did, but they waited on the grant money. So for about 3 months, I took one of my officers off the road and put him out there, and they actually had some good hits in that short period of time. But at the same time, we wrote a grant. Criminal Justice Institute grant, and the first year we were funded 100% for 4 officers. So the 4 agencies, Richmond, Hancock County, and Henry County, Greenfield too. So those are the 4 agencies, and those 4 agencies got manpower and vehicles and equipment. Obviously, they all went to the black. And everybody had the black cars, SUVs, and they patrol that out there, and they've been very successful. They've taken off when I say major pounds of drugs, whether it be
this is the group that I
coke.
always criticize for arresting tourists that are going from one legal state to another with
Sure,
marijuana.
Sure, yeah.
Poor
Well,
folks.
But the problem is it's not always just marijuana. Sometimes they've got some heroin and they've got some other items, pills, and they've even actually broke up several non-drug related. There was the circuit breakers. There was a guy and a couple of his associates that were going around multiple states, and they were stealing circuit breakers like you have in your fuse box. Well, those things aren't cheap. And they were shoplifting them, and they had thousands of dollars worth of circuit breakers in their vehicle when the PACE team stopped them.
What's the street value of a circuit breaker, Dakota? You're the expert in the room.
I don't work with just regular ones.
Square D? Cents?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes like they can be really expensive. Like your GFCI circuit breakers can be upwards of $80. I mean, just for one. Like,
Right.
and if you have two of those for your kitchen, I mean, for just the breakers in your kitchen, you're talking $160.
Yeah.
I got pulled over by one of the members of the PACE team one time. Me and Chase Payton and our friend Kyle, we got pulled over for not wearing seatbelts in Kyle's car. And it was a Monte Carlo, and Kyle just got it. Well, his brother just gave it to him. And he didn't have the registration for it. So we ended up, it was this whole big mess. And oh my gosh, I don't even want to get into it because it was just such a big mess. We had to call so many people to come out. We had to call the
Did you have to
people
get bailed out of jail?
No, we didn't have to get bailed out of jail, but we had to call the people that his brother purchased it off of. Problem was, it was 12:30 in the morning, so the guy had to get dressed and come out to where we were pulled over at. It was a big mess, but I always wear my seatbelt.
Did it have plates? Valid plates?
No, it didn't have any plates on it.
I've got some pretty bad pullovers. We won't get into them.
There was about a year and a half where I couldn't go through Carthage without getting pulled over, and that was on my way between home and work. So I had my struggles myself. I never got pulled over anywhere else in my life but Carthage, Indiana. Man, I was a target. I was a target. All right, enough about that. Butch, you're on the county commissioners, and you became the president of the organization. Was it your turn? How'd that happen?
Actually, I was president last year, and
all right, so this year you're not.
I'm this year too. Yeah, 2 years in a row. And historically, what had happened? I think Ed Yanis was president for maybe 3 years, 2 or 3 years. Kim Cronk was. Before that, Kim was president for 2 or 3 years. So last year. Year before last, which was my first year as commissioner, they both said, "You're the president." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. This is a new gig for me, and I'd really like to settle in for a year before you make me president and add additional responsibilities. And I really don't need the extra money as being president.
There's extra money in it?
It pays a whole lot more money to be president.
Well, that's where you're on the take right there. I hear all this money about all this. Everybody makes extra money in county government.
That's it.
Apparently, it's in the presidency.
It's in the presidency.
It's like the park board. They doubled my money when I became president of the park board.
Yeah.
From 0 to 0.
Now you know.
Yeah.
So I talked him into not making me be the president the first year. So last year I became the president. And I accepted it, and I was okay with it. I felt comfortable with that. This year, when it came back around again, and there had been some discussion about rather than anybody keep it 2 or 3 years at a time, that we just alternated. Every third year you're going to be president. And I said, well, I'm sort of okay with that, I guess. But the discussion went on a little bit further, and they said, well, since Kim had it for 3 years and Ed had it for 2 or 3 years, and won't we give it to you for a couple years, and then we'll start the rotation. So that made me the president the second year.
Here we go.
It's a long story, but that's the truth.
So
what? I don't think that we really covered this, but what was the deciding factor whenever you decided to run for commissioner?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the Cronks retired. Bill Cronk was retiring.
Right.
And so the spot was open.
Spot was open, and I was leaving the sheriff's department. And
Rebecca said you needed work.
Well, and she did, but at the same time, probably the biggest deciding factor was the fact that I've been in public service since I was 21. I've worked for the city government. I've worked for the county government, different divisions, different offices, and I felt fairly comfortable at that age, even though I was getting up there in years, that I would probably be able to find a job someplace, and I was willing to start looking. The only thing is the individual you just mentioned, Bill Cronk. That's probably the reason that I initially ran for this job. He hounded me. He said he wanted me to take this job. He wanted me to have this job. And he said, I need you to take my place. He said, I want somebody to take my place that I feel comfortable with. He said, I want you to do it. And I wasn't opposed to it. As a sheriff, running for sheriff both times and being the sheriff, I don't necessarily consider that it is, but I didn't consider it a political position. It is an elected position, but I was still Butch Baker, the cop, I guess. Mm-hmm. I was just doing it just like when I was assistant chief. I started off not with the sheriff's department at a high rank, although I did, but now I'm the sheriff and I'm in that position, even though I had to get elected by the citizens of the community to do that. So I didn't really look at it as a political position as much as this one. This job here is a political position, and you run for this job. And not knowing all the details, although I did have a lot, because for the 8 years that I was sheriff, I missed one county council meeting and one commissioner meeting out of those 8 years. So I sort of had a feel for what they had done in the last 8 years and what had come up and how they had handled it. And so it's not like I didn't know what they were doing and know the operation. So I finally gave in to Bill Cronk and said, okay, I'll run. So that's how I started.
So as you've run, you've been very different than other candidates in that I've seen people try to give money, and your campaign does not accept contributions. I, however, as I'm running, am an absolute whore, and you can send me money, Jeremiah Morrell, 3903 Jeffrey Street, Newcastle, Indiana, and we'll deposit your checks. You're not taking any checks, Butch.
No.
What's wrong with you? As a candidate, I would be beating the tar out of you if you're in my party. We always raise money.
Well, I guess here it is. When I ran for sheriff, I took money. The sheriff race was especially the first time when you got 7 people, you got to pull all the stops out, and it's very costly.
It's the lifeblood of keeping a campaign going.
Right.
You're not paying in your pocket. You're paying for signs, materials,
right.
time,
Everything.
Volunteers. You've got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work, and the costs are very costly. So I had that mechanism set up, and I collected that money, and I had a campaign manager, Todd Dawes, who basically took care of the finances for me, and he did a great job. And I needed that. If I didn't, I sunk about $10,000 of my own money into each of those races. But the campaign, the sheriff's race in the county is a lot more expensive than $10,000. So, when I ran for the commissioner's job, I guess, I just took the approach that, the people that gave me money when I was running for sheriff, I can honestly say this, and there was a lot of people throughout the community that contributed to my campaign for sheriff. Never once did I have anybody ever come up to me and say, hey, can you help me? I gave to your campaign. Never. So I didn't have that to say that I didn't like that, which I wouldn't like that. But when I ran for commissioner, I just made the choice that I wasn't going to take money from anybody. And I also made the choice that I was going to take minimal amount of money out of my savings and run for this office. And if I got it, that's fine. And if I didn't, that's fine too. So that was my philosophy in the beginning. Now, having said that, and knowing that other candidates, councilmen, other elected officials, and during various times has taken contributions, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. But I've also known that they've had some heartache because the people that have donated to them have come up and challenged them because they didn't like the way they voted.
Yeah.
So by doing that, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm glad I didn't take any money. And I had money offered to me. I've had money offered to me this time. And I've just told people I'm not taking any contributions. I'm going to do the same thing I did the last time. And the outcome is if I win, then I'll continue to serve. If I don't, then I'll look for something else.
Yeah. Well, that
I think it's a great
That's
strategy.
pretty good
And it keeps
philosophy,
you
yeah.
clean, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's so different. Like it's one of those things that I just I'm at a loss for words. I've never heard a candidate say, "Oh, we're not going to take money." It's just so strange to me to hear that. But I hear your reasoning for it, and it's brilliant.
So we've talked about you being a county commissioner. For those of we have people that listen from all over the state of Indiana and all over the country that don't necessarily have
He's going to
county
unbutton
commissioners.
that other button here.
There we go. We're going to get into. It's getting hot in here, Danny. No,
Podcast After Dark with Jeremiah Morrell.
It's the dark shirt.
This is not the second episode a week.
I got a new microphone, and I'm in freeform mode here. I don't have to be leaned up on it. I'm protesting Dakota's new microphones he gave us. It's very different. I'm learning how it works. Anyway, what's a county commissioner do? Everybody's not familiar with the county commissioner. So you're kind of like the county executive, but it's a board of 3. So just a real easy primer on what's the role of a county commissioner and what are you overseeing?
As you said, the executor of the county, the 3 of us together are like the mayor of the city. The difference is 2 of the 3 of us have to agree upon something before we can put anything in place. We oversee the operations of the county, the employees, the policies and procedures, the fleets. Payroll. We sign off on all the payroll. We sign off on all the bills, and there's tons of bills that come in every month to we got 12 buildings. So you got 12 utilities. You got maintenance. There's just all kinds of things. Ordinances, any resolutions, those come to us, and then and the county attorney, and with his advice, then we'll process those and go through sometimes public hearings, and then we'll have to make a decision. And that's the big thing. We have to make decisions on about everything that takes place, and in doing so, we'll take input and we'll listen, and then it's the bottom line. It's up to us. I know there's a lot of people would like on any and every issue they would like for it to go to some kind of a referendum, but
we heard that last week.
We don't do that, in the state of Indiana, and I guess if we did, we'd have to have an election with all the different issues that we have, and everybody else has. Every county has the same issues, but we'd have to have a referendum every month, and have about 20 things on the referendum for them to vote on to see what the majority of the public wanted.
So you guys meet twice a month.
6
o'clock in the old county courthouse, or the county courtroom.
Courtroom, yes. Yeah. And we have a meeting on the second Wednesday of the month at 3:30. It's called a work session. We have a work session that allows the 3 of us to sit in the same room in a public meeting, open to the public, in the same room, and we can hear from department heads or citizens who want to talk about a particular issue. And we can discuss that issue between ourselves. We just can't make any decision. So a lot of times, maybe on the first or the second Wednesday of the month at 3:30, we'll have a meeting that usually goes till 5, and then at 6 o'clock, then we will actually do some decision making based off of the information that maybe was presented to us at the work session.
So some of the issues that have been going around the county for the time you've been in office, and I assume these are some of your platform issues. Going back to your time as sheriff, the county jail has been like this hot button issue where you needed a new roof, you've got plumbing issues, you've got overcrowding, all of the stuff going on with the jail. Are you in a position where you're advocating for a new jail? I know Delaware County and Marion County Delaware County and Rush County are both building new jails. Is that the future for Henry County, or I know where do you see the jail situation going for Henry County?
Well, you have to go back to when I was sheriff in 2013 as a sheriff, with the conditions and everything that we had going on with the sheriff with the jail, and you got to remember that the jail opened in 1980. It was built in 78, 79, opened in 1980, and it was designed and built. It was the last lineal jail in the state of Indiana. Everything else went to pod. So the pods are the future of, and still are the future of the jail, 2-story pods. So, but when the jail was built, it was built for 68 people. So the square footage, the bathrooms, the toilets, the sinks, the showers, were to code for the 68 inmates, the maximum amount of inmates. A jail is no different than a church. Once your church gets up to about 80%, then there's not enough elbow room, so it's overcrowded, even though you got maybe under 68 people in there. So at that point in time, I was 100 plus in the jail, another 75 or 80 across the street in the jail, with the work release center at that point in time. We actually ran a work release center and community service with inmates. So at that point in time, I started the process as a sheriff, and the federal government will only recognize a letter from the sheriff. They won't recognize a letter from the commissioners or the mayor or anybody else. So I sent a letter to the federal government in Washington, D.C., and requested an assessment of our situation here in Henry County. And they sent in a team of 4 people. And that was a 3-day. We had 2 public meetings. It was well attended. And after that, I started a criminal justice coordinating committee. Coordinating committee has about 25, 26 people on it. It has representatives from throughout the county. And basically we started the process to look at what our needs were and how we could combat this overcrowding problem.
So why do we have so many more people in the jail? Because they don't go to the state anymore. The state changed some rules in the last 4 or 5 years, and now the county is responsible for housing folks instead of sending them to a state prison.
That's true. Yeah, it's exactly true. And our numbers have fluctuated up and down. I think today there's the
prosecutor got better. Is that what happened? We're keeping more people.
Well, no, I mean I think the prosecutor's office and the judges and the prosecutor right now have been working real hard in an attempt to speed up the process. If today there's 107 people in the jail, and probably out of that 107 that's actually housed in the jail, I'm going to say, because I didn't look at the actual number, but I'm going to say probably 12 of them have been sentenced. The rest of them are waiting. And if it's a level 5, 6 felony or up, then they're going to be there for a year before they're sentenced or released, whichever the case may be.
Why does it take a year to get sentenced?
And that's what I was talking about. The judges and the prosecutor's office and the public defender's office has been working, trying to expedite and speed that system up. But it's that way, not just in Henry County. It's that way everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
There's not a lot of times it has to do with the inmate. The inmate says, I'm not taking a deal. I want to go to trial. And then when they wait, they go through the discovery process, which takes time for both sides. And then when they have a couple hearings, and then
so these are folks that are awaiting trial. They're not convicted yet. They're not out on bond or bail. Nope, they're just waiting in jail until they go through the trial process. Right.
And some of them can bond out, but the bond's to the point that they can't. Or some of them have bonded out and they recommitted another offense allegedly, and now they're back in and there's no bond.
In this county, what is the main reason to be incarcerated, would you say, that takes the majority?
Alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bulk of the people in there for that. There's occasionally you'll find a person in there that had alcohol didn't play a part or drugs didn't play a part in them being in there, but those are far and few between.
Right.
But I think if you go to the other counties, you're going to find pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do we have a drug problem here? Yeah, we've had a drug problem here for years.
Every other county does too.
Every other county does too. Exactly right. Yeah. But we do substance abuse classes in the jail. I did it when I was there. Kronk did it when he was a sheriff. Rick's doing it now. Mm-hmm. Those classes are great. And occasionally you'll get somebody that comes out and doesn't reoffend.
Yeah.
Those are far and few between too.
So at this point, do the commissioners have a working plan for what the future is for this jail, or what's the next step?
Well, there's been a couple steps since then. There was 4 of us that went out to the NIC, the National Institute of Corrections, and there was a week-long, paid for by the federal government, training, and it basically has to do with essentially what it is this is what a jail is, this is what it should be, this is how it should be ran, and this is what you need to do to look at what you need to do with your jail, and this is how you, step by step, how you build a new jail. Go to the design to build a new jail. So when we came back from that, and one of the people that went to that was Dick Bauslog. And when he left, he basically went because nobody else had the time. It was summertime, and being a school teacher, he could take a week off, and he went. And when he went, he was opposed to a jail. And the reason he was opposed to a jail is because the jail's not that old, and his house is older than the jail, and he's still living in his house. And when we got out there, one of the instructors, because he brought that up, one of the instructors said, yeah, but how many people you have living in your house? Let's put 80 people in your house for this many years, and what kind of condition is your house going to be in? And things like that sort of set in on him. And he went out there saying, we don't need, and he came back saying, we need to do something. So, unfortunately, he's leaving that position, but he's one of the supporters at this point in time. That Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, besides the trip, we went out, we came back armed with all the material we needed. We then started a process to hire a consultant company to come in and do an evaluation of not just the jail, but the entire criminal justice system, prosecutor's office, courts, everything, community corrections. And then he's been putting together. There was a downtime delay because of money. There wasn't any money to hire him. The commissioners did a process, and they selected who they wanted to hire, but there wasn't no money to pay him, and the council didn't have the money to pay him. So what they basically did was, until we got the Lowett money, that's where they was able to pay him. So once 3 years later, when the Lowett money come through, public safety money, they took some of that money and hired him, and he's been in the process. Now, it's been probably just right at a year, and he's getting very close to having a report back to us.
So are there any federal or state grants that the county can apply for as far as the jail goes?
No. I wish there was, because we'd be applying for
that puts you in a tight spot.
So once you get this report back, and assuming that it says, yeah, we need to build a new jail facility, do you go bond route like Rush County did? Rush County's jail was $25 to $30 million price tag to build a jail.
Our ability to bond at this point in time may be limited, because we still have a bond out on the Justice Center. So that's one of our issues that we'd have to look at. The other issue that we may be able to do, there is a sort of like the public safety Lowett money. We could there's it's not a popular thing to do, I know this, but we could enact another tax similar to the public safety, which would generate, and I think the last time I heard it was generate just like $1.8 million a year. And if we did that, and it would probably cost each household in our community $200 a year.
Is that another property tax?
Another property tax.
So that was kind of something that we brought up on the Susan Hoon episode, was the public safety money going to the jail. Yeah. And as far as I know, there's $35,000 that's unaccounted for in the Lowett budget, or is that incorrect?
I don't know about anything not being accounted for.
So is there anything that could be cut from the public safety fund that could go towards a jail?
Well,
I know it's kind of
well, and my figures are going to be round figures. Right. I know that last year and this year, last year there was probably over $100,000 that was put into maintenance to fix some of the things in the jail that needed to be fixed, security measure items such as the bar doors that had been busted and broke. So this year they've had to fix a few more doors, not to that extent. So if we were able to, over a period of time, carve down, we're not going to have to put another new roof on, because we got a new roof on it. Yeah. But if you had $100,000 or $200,000 a year that you could throw off to the side to throw at a jail, then you're going to wait another probably 15, 20 years before you can actually do anything. Mm-hmm. Again, I know it's not a popular thing. That money was there to enhance and the emergency services, whether it be police, fire, or EMS, and that's what it's been doing.
It
but
paid
it's
for a
being
lot
depleted.
of new police cars. I know that before that was put in, the county had some ridiculously high mile vehicles on the road.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Yes, I
I've
did.
I've overheard a lot of
I
conversations
remember
about that.
when Phil Cassane was still around and he was a reserve. His
300,000 miles.
he had hundreds
Yeah.
of thousands of miles
Yeah.
on his vehicle.
Yeah, and when I was sheriff, and I'm not complaining about it, times were tough. And every year, after the first year I was there, my budget got caught, and it got cut and cut and cut and cut. It wasn't intentional. It was just, it was just the times.
Yeah.
So
you served from what, 2000?
2009, no, 2008 through 15. That's 8
Okay.
years, I think.
Yep. All right. So we've covered the jail. We've exhausted that pretty extensively.
Well, with the exception of one thing, if we get to the place where we can build a new jail, we can technically. One concept that we had several years ago, or I had several years ago, was to go out to the youth center and utilize it. I had a company come to and give me a ballpark figure, an engineering company, and said for $5 million we could add on a pod out there and make a 200-bed jail. Detectives' offices, the sheriff's administrative office could all be there, and that, to me, that sounded like a fairly reasonable $5 million. I mean, it's still a lot of money. I understand that. So that didn't fly. So now we're here where we are today. So I've looked at some other places that we're talking $10 million, and that's just a ballpark figure. But we can build exactly where we're at now onto the existing building, turn the old building into detectives' offices, and put a 200-bed facility or 250-bed, whatever this thing comes back at, and do it right there on county property we own now, and not take the jail and move it into another neighborhood, because then somebody's going to say, not in my backyard.
Right.
It's already in somebody's backyard, and it's there where it's at. So,
Or just get people to stop breaking the law.
if you figure out how to do that, let me know.
We need less
I have-
laws, and then we don't have to convict.
I have
them.
at least one idea, and it deals with marijuana, but we're not going to get into that because it's not a county issue.
You talked about not in my backyard. That segues us nicely into land use.
It does.
And
Sure.
my backyard is a parcel that's been discussed on Facebook and in social media here lately. There's a little over 100-acre parcel off 300 North
Yes.
that the Planning Commission said, hey, we want to rezone from rural residential to light industrial. And I understand that came to the commissioners this week, and you guys heard some testimony. And what's the process on that? And what's the on a larger scale, what's the process that you guys go through when somebody says, hey, we want to take a parcel and do something else with it?
Well, the first step is what's already happened, which is the planning. There's an application made, and the planning commission looks at it, and then they hear testimony, and then they look at it, and they make their decision, and then they send that decision up to us, and we can overturn it. We can go along with it. That's a decision we have to make. Last night, after we put out public notices, we heard testimony, probably from the same people that the Planning Commission heard from. And after we heard the testimony, both for and against, then we tabled it last night until 2 weeks till our next meeting. And at our next meeting, then we'll have to make a decision one way or the other. During that 2 weeks' time, and I'm sure we all three have, I know I have, prior to the meeting last night, I had started looking at some different issues, and I knew their concerns from what I'd heard from the Planning Commission. When I say that, I read the paper, and so I knew what was somewhat of what taking place there. So I've started looking at some of their concerns. I will continue to look at their concerns at this point in time for the next week or so, a week and a half. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll sit down, and I'm sure we'll have to make a decision one way or the other.
So this is an issue that's not going to be fester. Like the wind is a larger scale thing, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is not one of those that's going to sit there for months and months and months. It's going to be in the next couple weeks. You'll have a vote up or down to accept there.
Second Wednesday next month, one way or the other, we'll put it to bed.
Okay.
All right. So so we've been seeing this issue, and there's been a lot of outrage around people in the community about this particular parcel of land. So, I mean, do you think that how do you regulate that? What goes through your head whenever you're making these decisions?
Well, it's regulated by our current ordinances, and there's ordinances out there, and I don't think a lot of people realize about those ordinances, and those ordinances control and dictate what can and can't go in a particular area, how it goes in, what has to be done, all the different regulations from the health department and Darren Jacobs' office. And the
our token socialist,
surveyor's office, the highway engineer, the highway superintendent, all those departments. There are ordinances and regulations that whatever goes in there will have to comply with, and it's our responsibility, the county's responsibility, to make sure that they do comply with them, so that we don't have them doing something that they're not supposed to, that creates a bigger problem than what they got now. Obviously, you have a water problem out there.
No, I have plenty of water.
Yeah, you have a water problem. Yeah, too much water is just as bad as no water.
True. I also have a sewer problem. I've got the double whammy.
Yeah, you do. So
both kinds of water.
The part, yeah, I've got fresh water and black water.
You just don't mix them
and
together.
a little bit of gray right there.
Yeah. But this parcel that we're talking about is like 2,200 feet from my house. I mean, it's very close.
Sure.
I'm an affected neighbor of this decision.
And there is in our ordinance, there is a setback regulation as to how close somebody can build in, let's say, light industrial, if it was to go light industrial. But at the same time, currently it is a rural residential. So theoretically, a developer could go back here tomorrow, go up to, well, they'll close tomorrow. Tuesday, they could go up to the office and make application and decide that they want to put in a
subdivision,
maybe a low-income subdivision like what's on the other side to the north of you guys. They could put one of those in. They could do apartment complex. They could do anything like that because it is
zoned for residential.
That's what it's zoned for.
Right.
So for it to be sitting there farmland for the rest of its life, it could be. But then again, it could not be. It could be a residential area just as well as it could be a light industry. If light industry was to go in there, the setbacks will apply. There's a noise portion of that ordinance. This ordinance is already there in place, and it just has to be enforced and made sure that it's adhered to when something was to go in there, if it goes in.
Yeah, as a guy that lives in that general area, just to our south and west, we have the Newcastle Industrial Park. And honestly, as a neighbor of that, I lived in there's a set of 5 little apartments in one structure next to Duke Energy's building. Duke Energy, DL Couch, CarQuest, they were actually some of the best neighbors because people weren't there when you were home. They were at work. They're gone. The grass is cut. It's nice. It's quiet. It really didn't affect my life having them there. It was actually nicer because I didn't have neighbors and people coming and going and stuff going on. It was nice and quiet.
So is it true that Boar's Head is light industrial?
Yes.
It is light industrial. And it takes up 65 acres of land?
They've got about that much land out there. Of course, that's a parking lot and
right.
And
yeah.
Perimeter. And they've got a retention pond there, maybe 2, if I'm not mistaken.
And that, just to clarify that, talking about the retention pond, like you said, that could help, right, the residents there with the water issues.
Sure. Whether it's a housing complex that goes in or whether it's a business that goes in, whoever goes in there, if anybody ever does go in there, they're going to have to adhere to that water issue.
Right.
So they're going to have to make sure that what they put in there does not adversely affect that area, but they're also going to have to fix whatever the problem is now. And we all know
right.
there's a problem there now. So whatever they do is going to have to address that water problem.
Yeah.
And by doing so, the residents on Jordan Drive, no matter what goes in there, it's going to be a plus for them.
They're going to have somewhere to send water potentially.
Sure.
Yeah, because there's no factory in the entire world that wants their factory floor to flood whenever it rains.
No.
That's not going to happen.
So one of the other big land use issues that we've been seeing, and it's been a hot topic since you've joined the county commissioners, is the wind farms. At this time, your organization or your committee, the Board of Commissioners, has been studying something called a WEX, or a Wind Energy Conversion System Ordinance. I guess, can you help us understand what your role is in that? Are there any projects right now that are expected to be built or are on the table? I know this is kind of of your opponent right now in the primary. This has been one of the main issues that he has been bringing forward. So I guess paint the picture as you see it today for the commissioners and your role and where that's at.
Okay. But I'm going to go back a little bit further.
Sure.
Prior to becoming commissioner, and I attended some of those work sessions where the commissioners back then had put together a committee for CAFOs. And that committee,
CAFO is a confined animal feeding operation.
Yes. And that committee worked on that. And I'll have to say, of course, I sat through some of those sessions as a sheriff for the purpose of trying to educate myself because I had been elected to this position, and I wanted to make sure I understood what was going on. So having sat through those and watching those and seeing the outcome of that, they developed – don't get me wrong, there was people on both sides of that in that committee, and they didn't agree, and nobody got what they wanted, but they come to a compromise, and they were able to put together an ordinance that everybody can today live with, whether they like it or not. And we, the commissioners, we get notifications from the state on a regular basis that one of our local CAFOs in our county is either expanding or they're adjusting something or they're changing something, and they have to apply with the state to get permit to do that. And they have to notify us. That committee, when they designed that, they did a very good job because they put it on a point system. So if they do something that's within the point system, they don't have to come back to the Planning Commission. They don't have to come back to the commissioners, and we don't have to get everybody riled up again. So when they set that and designed that, they designed that so that if it was within these guidelines, they could do it, providing the state gave them permission. So when the state gives them permission, they can go forward with that. Since I've been commissioner, they've not had to come back and have any kind of public hearings to make any adjustments or changes for a CAFO. The wind is the same, was going to be the same process. We, the commissioners, tried to impanel, or we did impanel. We did impanel a group of people for and against the wind and asked them to work on a new ordinance. We have an ordinance, and we've had an ordinance, I think, 2010. But that ordinance needs to be adjusted. I don't think there's anybody anywhere that won't say it needs to be adjusted. Some of them think it needs to be thrown out and kill the project. Some of people think that it needs to be more restrictive. I don't think there's anybody out there that thinks it needs to be less restrictive. That committee was put together. That committee worked on it, had numerous meetings. That committee was a little, I'm not sure what word I'm looking for, but there were some heated sessions between them. Both sides was very passionate about their beliefs. And they ended up having a process, and that process ended up giving them to give to us a proposal for a new ordinance, which when it came, which we never officially seen it, we knew what it was, but when it came, it was less restrictive. That's not what the three of us commissioners wanted when we impaneled this group to do this. We weren't looking for less restrictive. We were looking for possibly more restrictive, and any new ideas that could come in there to help safeguard the citizens of Henry County and take care of Henry County as a whole. So when they disbanded, they gave it to us, we formed our own committee, the three of us, and we've had numerous meetings. We took numerous input for hours from both sides. We had set downs with the people for wind farms and the people opposed to wind farms. They each give representatives. We sat there. We took their information. We've been provided with documentation from both sides. We've been provided with their wish list, the people that are opposed to it. First one in written form, and then we've asked for some electronics forms of that for obvious reasons. If we agreed with something, it's easier to cut and paste and slide it over into a proposal than it is to retype it, since I'm a slow typer. So that's sort of the process that we went through. Once we were done with the hearings and the committee's input, the committee of both sides, basically what we've done, the three of us commissioners, we took the latest and greatest that the people had agreed and not agreed upon, and I think it was like 26, 27 pages. And then we have taken that and we have traded it around, sent it to each other. In other words, I'll take that version and I circle what I don't like, and I'll put in what I do like,
right.
And then I hand it to the other commissioner. He does the same thing. He hands it to that one. And for the last month and a half, that's what we've done. We've taken that document and we've passed it around.
So when does this come out of committee and get to an ordinance?
Well, it's out of that part of it. At some point in time, there are 3 areas that the 3 of us can't agree upon, and we can keep passing that thing around until whatever.
Are you trying to get to the point where you have 3 votes yes, or just 2 votes yes?
Well, we're just trying to get to the place where everything in there right now, with the exception of 3 areas, we've got 3 votes yes.
Okay,
and it's a lot longer than what it was before. We've incorporated a lot of input that we got from the other side, from the people who are opposed to it, and we've incorporated some stuff that the people that are in favor of it have wanted, and the people that are opposed to it during the meetings that agree that that's not bad. So we've put a little bit of both in there. So we've increased it in size, and now we've got it to the place to where those 3 areas that I know we can't agree upon, I actually sent it to the attorney, and the attorneys have it now. They're looking at the language to see if what we've changed and added and did, if it's all legal.
So there's a lot of different things that are going around inside Henry County right now about the wind farms. It's been a big issue. It's been a hot button topic for a long time. Is there anything that the county is trying to do to kind of help extinguish all the myths and the get facts out there for people?
I guess I have to ask you what you mean by the myths.
Well, so like there's all kinds of different things that are going on, and I mean I don't want to get into this because I'm personally really split on the issue of wind farms, but there's been just so much polarization going on, and it's kind of sad to see because people are hating each other, like actual disgust for each other, just because of the wind issue. I mean, Cade Coger is one of our co-hosts here, and we've seen a lot of it just in our comment sections and videos and different posts that we make. So I guess not really the myths, but just trying to inform the public about it.
Well, and I guess the problem there is, and when you talk about the controversy, come sit in our seats. If you want to see controversy,
I couldn't imagine.
But that goes with the territory. That's just part of it. But for and I'm not going to say for every report, but when you read one report that says A, then the other report says B, and then you can play that game forever.
Yeah.
If there was a clear cut, they're good, they're bad, and it was out there someplace, then everybody would be using whichever that is. So. From my standards, once this thing comes back from the attorneys, and I told last night in the meeting, I said, we will probably, the 3 of us in an open meeting, have to discuss those 3 issues.
So can you share with us at this point, or is it still in the committee? What are the 3 issues that you guys are like the sticking points? Yeah.
Okay. The 3 issues are this, and so in the paragraphs and all that stuff's going to be the same. The only thing is there's 3 areas that I've highlighted, which have to do with numbers, and it's going to be the setback, the decibels, and the hertz. Those are the 3 areas that the 3 of us have not agreed upon.
Okay.
So we've all got our own views as what they should be, and at some point in time, and there's a whole lot of other issues out there, and there's a whole lot of other things that we've changed and adjusted that I think are just as important as those 3 that we've got right there.
And there's not an industry standard for those, or a county standard, or it's up to your committee to work that out for our area.
It's us to make that decision. Now we look at other communities around the state of Indiana. For one, we do that now. We've done that. We've got the research on that. It's just the 3 of us can't agree upon on those 3 issues at this point. We'll have to in an open meeting, and that's the way it should be.
So is there a setback? What's your setback? Like your ideal, if you all are throwing darts at a number, is it 2,500 feet, 5,000 feet, 500 feet. What's the setback for you? And then I guess there's two different things. There's a property line and there's a structure line, right?
Well, there's property line. There's setback from a residence, and then there's a setback from a town.
So setback from residence would be like a foundation line, correct? Or is that wrong?
Foundation of your house, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just so I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah. And at this point, I'll be honest with you, I have mine, and I sort of know what the other two guys have, but I'm going to keep that close to the vest until we have our meeting with everybody sitting there.
That transitions me to my next question about transparency in local government.
Sure.
I've advocated for meeting times that are evenings for all these meetings, and the commissioners do a good job of that. You guys have a 6 o'clock meeting twice a month, which is generally achievable. The county council needs some work on that, but you vote for me. That's what I'm voting for. That's my pitch.
Going to help Clay Morgan out.
But before we turn the cameras on in here, we got a $300 Mevo camera and a few $40 microphones and a setup that.
There's 4 of them.
4 of them. I forgot Danny barely talks, but he has a microphone over there.
$180. I don't know.
Yeah. So
you keep him straight, Danny.
A few $1,000 for the setup we have here, and obviously this doesn't scale up completely to the setup you guys have because there's 3 commissioners and 7 council members and some speaking podiums and attorneys and auditors. There's a little bit bigger setup that's required for that application. But what's it going to take for us to get? We have a YouTube channel. We Facebook Live. You could do county government on Facebook Live. What's it going to take to get 21st century technology in the county courthouse so that we have public access to all of your meetings and your work sessions and that sort of a thing?
Money.
Okay.
That's the basics to that. But I'll be honest with you, over a year ago, and I have the quotes laying on my desk from a couple different companies. And what we had talked about and was looking into was behind where Dick Bauslog sits and behind where Mike Thal sits, on either side of the president of the council, a pretty big white spot up there. And to put 2 70-inch TVs up there, not really TVs, but monitors.
Monitors, sure.
And then we have a screen on the side over there already, and we've been trying to acquire a projector so that we can hook up to the computer and put a little workstation there. So if somebody comes in and they have a presentation, that would all show on that. Same thing would show on all 3 screens if possible.
You would think Draper could help with that.
Well, actually, Draper did. Draper gave us the screen that's hanging up there today.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
So it's installed and it's there, and we've showed things on it. We've carried in the portable one instead of having the one hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
But we've done that. And
yeah, man. I've tried to record in that room. I tried to sit in the very back and get a live stream of it, and you couldn't hear a single word that anybody was saying.
We're going to work this out right now. Can we consider Boss Hog of Liberty Media so Dakota can sit up front with Travis and Eldon and Kevin Green?
If I wear my local celebrity shirt,
if you guys bring all the equipment so that we can enhance that room, then I'll be for it.
The soundboard and everything.
Yeah.
The new mics did come with carrying cases, so
there we
go.
Yeah.
You've got some options,
but you're going to need more. You don't have enough.
There we go.
So,
talk into the microphone, please, Mr. Baker.
So this Nixle. This Nixle program that the county's come out with. We heard a little bit about that on the last episode, which was like the very first I'd ever heard about it. Can you expound on that a little bit more? I don't know.
Sure. The Emergency Management Office actually got this started 2 years ago in the Sheriff's Department and the Sheriff and Ron Huffman. And initially it was set up, and it has been. It's got over 2,000 Henry County people have registered into it, and it's for emergency notices, weather, road closings, some kind of a spill. The Emergency Management Office can send that out, and it automatically goes to a little over 2,000 Henry County residents. They can also send out an alert that if you're in New York and you're driving to California, but you're driving through Henry County right now, and your cell phone's on and your cell phone hits a tower that's in Henry County or adjacent to Henry County, you'll get that alert too, even though you're not a Henry County resident.
Okay.
So that's how that sort of works. He has recently, he being Ron Huffman, has recently set up subcategories. I know the town of Louisville, he's been working with them, and they've distributed it. And if the people in Louisville will log in with their keyword of Louisville, and they can then get alerts that are sent out by the town board president, that town council. There's a tip line now for all 5 school corporations that's been presented to the school boards that allows a student to call in, or not call in, but text in and put a tip. They can say that Johnny's acting strange and I heard him threatening people and he's got a gun. That doesn't go to the public. That doesn't go to anywhere. That can go to the school administrators if they want to. They have to decide that they want to. But it goes to all law enforcement, police department, sheriff's department.
So is this like included with our 911 service, or where did this come from?
Well, it was a grant that Ron Huffman wrote, and it's fairly costly, and I think the sheriff may have helped out a little bit with some funds for the second year. And it's a good tool from that aspect for public safety money. It's something that's an enhancement. That's what public safety money is supposed to be for. It's to enhance public safety. That this is a public safety enhancement. Not as necessarily for public safety, but he's been able to tag on there these towns and communities that want to have their own little alerts. It's not really an alert system. It's an information system. And obviously Henry County government needs that because we've been listening for the last 2 years. We don't take the paper, and you need to tell us about it. You need to
but I don't have a cell phone, Butch, and it's your job to tell me.
Then you read the paper. If you don't have a cell phone, then you read the paper. So
why aren't you sending a carrier pigeon to my house?
Yeah. So if somebody wants the county, and they're not going to get a lot of them. I mean, before our next meeting, 48 hours before our next meeting, if I know some topics that might be hot topics, or even not hot topics, not the normal stuff, but something different or new, I'll put that on there. And I'm the one that's been given the access.
As the president. It's the power of the presidency.
Yeah, it's that extra money. That's how that works. I've contacted some of the other agencies, department heads, and said, hey, if you've got a meeting coming up, it's a public meeting, like the Planning Commission, I said, if you'll give me your stuff, and they've already said they will, I'll make sure that gets put out at least 48 hours before that meeting so that the public can be alerted. Now, as of last night, I put out 30 sheets of the Nixle sheets, and every one of them was gone. So I'm hoping that everybody was at the meeting last night has signed up for it.
So if people want to sign up, they text to the number 888-777. They type the word Henry County. They send Henry County, and they'll be signed up.
Yes.
So that's just that easy. And then you get tweets directly from Butch into your inbox.
Henry County, all one word.
Is it at real Butch Baker?
No. And in fact, just so we don't confuse anybody, Butch Baker's name doesn't show up on there anywhere.
It just comes from county government.
It just comes out of Henry County Management, and then it says, the first line that I put in there is Henry County Commissioners, and that's all it is. So it's from all 3 of us.
All right. Yeah, we just got a good tip here. Maybe it would be a good idea if we put up some flyers at places, like the AT&T and Verizon stores. If you could ask them,
those guys would sign you up as you go into your cell phone store.
Yeah, it would be.
That'd be a great idea.
Good idea. Yeah.
So we need to talk about my roads real quick, and how those what the process is for that. Because this is the time of year where every single year in Indiana we have the freezing, the thawing, and everything else from the wintertime, and the roads just get horrid. They get really, really bad. And I need to know how you guys set the priorities for different roads. Where you call in to give the tips about, like, hey, my road is full of potholes.
The answer is you go to Citizens Henry County to tag Kim Kronk, and he comes out and personally fills your pothole. I've read it 1,000 times.
He personally does it? Man.
Okay. To answer that question, excuse me just a second.
He's going to need some water. This apparently has been rehearsed.
This is a long...
You're probably tired of it.
Long explanation. But basically... to start with, the roads do this every year, and there's nothing we can do, just like we can't control the rain. We can't control the weather, and we can't control the roads. Our roads are bad, and if you look at the big picture, our roads, we have 800 miles of road, and
which is pretty big.
It's the same
for
as Wayne
County,
County.
Our population.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
Wayne County has about 800 miles of road. We have 800 miles of road, roughly. So to fix those roads costs money. We have there's 4 mechanisms for funding. 2 of them are taxes, gas taxes, and then there's a couple other. There's a low hut tax, and there's a wheel tax, which is a low hut tax, and so some of that funding, 3 of those fundings, every penny of it has to go into material. It can't go into labor. It has to go into material. You have to put that much money in material.
That's really interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So not man hours or anything.
No. The other fund can go for man hours, and it does. But 3 of those funds have to go for material.
Well, why is that?
State statute.
The state sets it up that way.
The way the state sets it up.
We don't control that one.
Huh. That's really interesting.
Now, having said that, it costs around $75,000 to redo a road, asphalt.
1 mile.
1 mile. $75,000.
That's crazy.
So 75,000 times 800. If we start the GoFundMe now, you can get them all done.
Yeah, there we go. Well, $1 million will do approximately 14 miles. Now, we don't pave every road. Some roads we look at, and they're sound. Maybe they're alligator cracked, and that's going to let water down there. And
you just need some tar.
So, yeah, it needs to be double tarred and chipped, and that will preserve that road for a period of time. Most roads, when they're redone, repaved, they're going to be good for approximately maybe 10.
Now, Danny got his road paved. Who did he buy off to get his road paved?
Wasn't me. I didn't get no money.
It's great.
Yeah. Well, and then
Cade and I actually went together to get the road done.
Isn't there some type of county or city official that lives out there towards you?
I heard
Are we not going to get into that? Oh wait, we're still trying to get him on the show. Forgot.
To answer your first part of your first question is it's called PASER. There's a state, federal guidelines for rating the roads, and once we have a couple county employees that have been certified for that, so they go out and they rate the roads, and the roads change. If you rated a road 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, especially 2 months ago, and there was no snow on it, you went out and rated the road, it's going to change now because some of them are blowing up. Some of them that didn't look too bad a month ago are disastrous now.
Oh,
so,
we just had a roller coaster ride in the winter, man.
Yeah.
My road's so nice, I have lines on it, and not many people say that.
See,
it's true.
He's bragging, man.
Yeah,
he lives
he
out
is.
Westwood.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's Henry Township's elite.
It's highbrow.
And I'm glad that we could take care of your road for you.
And remember that at election time.
I appreciate it very much. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's very nice. But I'll guarantee you, out of the 300 or 400 miles of road that are not too bad, all the rest of people, we're going to give them your name and number, and they can call you.
765-52.
So
2128.
So what I'm hearing is that Danny is a member of the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast, and that made him important enough to have his road paved.
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
That's a good question.
So there was an announcement yesterday. One last thing on the roads. The county, about a month or two ago, there was an announcement that we'd applied for some grant money.
Yes.
Next Level Roads money was awarded, and it's not going to go to roads necessarily. It's going to be there's a lot to roads. You have bridges, you got roads, and you've got signs. So this is going to be $640,000 towards signs.
Yeah.
In 2021.
Over a period of years.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And the signage is something that you don't think about until it's not there.
Until you can't see that it's County Road 300 South.
Right.
And you're like, where the hell did that go?
Yeah.
$640,000.
Yeah.
I should be in the sign business.
There you go.
That's 4 townships is all that's going to pay for. That's like 20% of the county.
Either that or the asphalt business, because that's where the money's at.
We can't have an asphalt business in this county because somebody voted no.
You're right, and that's one of those unfortunate things as far as I'm concerned, because our county highway has to drive to Shelby County or to
Delaware County
to get asphalt.
Gosh, so that's another thing I never even thought about.
Yeah, if they need 60 trucks of asphalt today, and once that machine starts going down the road,
it can't stop.
If they do stop, then it stopped.
You've got a joint.
The rest of your life, when you drive over that, you're going to feel it. So they need it to continually go. So they got to have those trucks sitting there waiting, ready to go. Not been sitting there too long because the stuff has to be at a certain temperature. So it needs to drop in there, and they need to go on down the road.
You know who pays for the gas that it takes those trucks to get down there?
Yeah,
because I drive a really big truck for a living, and it does not get very good gas mileage.
No, so that's a lot of hauling. Where if we had a asphalt plant in the county, And everybody agrees that we need an asphalt plant in the county, but they also all agree that as long as it's not in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You ended up in Prairie Township, huh?
I'll take it. I got a big field, and I'm sure the guy that owns the field over there will be glad to sell.
You think they can fit one back here in my backyard on H Avenue?
Nah, I don't think so.
I'll tell you what, you can put one.
The zoning problem with that.
The old Firestone facility is heavy industrial. That might be a spot.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. But the reason they probably never really looked at it because they always try to get something out on State Road 3, more centrally located, that that not only the county highway and the city could use, highway department use, but other industry could use it also.
All right, this is the very last thing, the very last topic that we have on the show notes. It says Memorial Park Saddle Club or the Doughboy stance.
Yeah, the whole Memorial Park thing.
Man, I really want to know about this Doughboy. I want to know what you think about that. What even can a commissioner do with that? Like, is there anything that you can do about the Doughboy statue?
Sure. Yeah, we can. Right now it's in the hands of the park, and it's in the hands of a committee that was put together, and there was been numerous meetings. There was 60, 70 people at several meetings throughout the state or the county of Henry. They were in Middletown and Knightstown, Newcastle, a couple different locations in Newcastle, and there was numerous of them. And I attended a lot of them. I think I missed one or two. I was never on a committee, but I attended the meetings, and they broke up into subcommittees. And one of the subcommittees dealt with the memorials and the Doughboy issue, and then brought back the report. And then that committee then brought back the report to the entire group, and they voted and made a decision to do certain things. Then it was taken to the park board, and the park board listened to. And it's more than just a Doughboy. There's a whole lot of different areas out there that they were looking at and adjusting. So they have got to the point to where everybody was in agreement at that point. And there were 60, 70 people pretty much at every one of those meetings. Wow. Some of them was the same people, some of them was different people. And then as with most things, when you get to a point to where action's taken, money's been raised, and things are starting to happen, and then as the word gets out a little bit more, not that everything was announced and everything was there, but now there's a group of people that are opposed to it. It's still in the park board. The park board's got the decision on it. Push come to shove, just like anything else, the commissioners could override their decision. I don't know that would happen. If the park board says we're going to put it back, they're going to put it back. If the park board says we're going to put it down there, then it's probably going to go down there. I don't know that the commissioners, the three of us, would entertain overriding whichever decision that they decide to make. And I know they've committed themselves, but I also know that they're willing to hear more. So that means they're at least going to listen, and maybe make a different decision, or maybe make the same decision.
From the last park board meeting, the committee that's moving forward is hoping to have something in place by July 4th.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they're on a certain path, you're running out of time to change it if something's going to change.
And if you're asking me for my personal opinion, whether it goes back or goes down there, I mean, I think that's up to the park board. But as a young man growing up here, I knew of the Doughboy. So many people that I've talked to, even my age, Doughboy, what's a Doughboy? And they didn't know it. Now, when I was growing up, I did spend some time in the park, so I knew about the Doughboy. But at the same time, there was different things different then. I mean, back, and there's a picture floating around from the Courier Times when the Doughboy, I think 1929, 1928. I think
29, yeah.
29.
Yeah, 29.
And that picture, there's no trees, there's nothing, it's there. But I remember that Doughboy being there when I first started driving. And when I first started driving, the State Road 3 was a 2-lane road, and it got converted to a 4-lane highway. Yeah, I know I'm old, but the road actually was higher there in front of the Doughboy back then, before they cut it down and dropped it down considerably distance. They dropped it down because there was a big hill there, and there'd been a couple of one of my classmates had a head-on collision on State Road 3 when it was 2-lane, right there just south of the house where the superintendent lives, and south of the Doughboy, because it used to go and just drop off, pretty steep drop off right there.
I can kind of see that in my head there, where the grade is up there by the Doughboy. Yeah,
the grade has dropped down. The road has dropped down considerably. It used to, years ago, when you drove by, you could look over and you weren't eyeball to eyeball with the Doughboy, but it was right there. And then when that road got cut down, now when you drive by, you sort of have to look up and look over to see it. So it's not as visible since they did that. The interurban used to run down through there. The interurban's still there. The height of it's still there, and it was about the same height. So, things have changed and the trees grew up. And the company that has refurbished it, one of their issues is that thing had years and years of sap dropping on, just like sap dropping on your car, and what it does if you don't clean it off and maintain it, it can deteriorate it fast.
And to me, what is too bad is you have people that are legitimately trying to do something good and trying to make something better, and it's not being perceived that way, and it's being kind of villainized, and no one's trying to move anything and be malicious and disrespect anyone. It's for the betterment of the park and the community, and it's interesting how some people's opinions are perceived completely different, I suppose.
It's kind of I kind of held that same opinion whenever we first started talking about the Doughboy, where it was like, okay, people are trying to make something better. Why would you be against it? Mm-hmm. And then, actually, to give credit to Mark Sean Orr, he just the history behind it. I'm a really big history guy personally. I really love learning about history, especially if it's a place that I am involved in. He's kind of helped. He's done a really good job of shaping my opinion to where if there was something that we could do to honor more modern veterans as far as Memorial Park goes, then it should be done. And I think that it would be worth trying to, even if it does take longer, even if this thing isn't done before July 4th, then I do think it would be worth to see if we could get enough money raised or by grants or anything to where we could add a new memorial to our memorial park.
Yeah, whether it's that one or another one, I think it's a memorial park that's a living memorial. So there's always going to be, as long as we keep dropping bombs and sending kids overseas, we're going to keep adding memorials to that park.
Sure. Yeah, unfortunately,
that's the way it's going to go.
And that was another interesting thing that you brought up was about the rail that went through there. Was that I saw recently that there was a proposed trail that was supposed to head through that area.
Yes.
And if that happened, then obviously it would really help access to the Doughboy where he presently is.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So the park is not only a veterans park, but it's also the home to the Henry County Saddle Club and Henry County Fairgrounds for 4-H. So there's a project that you've been supportive of, relocating from the current grounds to a new 5-acre site for the Ag Expo Center. The ground that's been set aside.
Well, and the proposed is 60 acres. It may take 5 acres.
5 acres for development now, and then the long term, the larger acreage area.
Yeah. Just want to be accurate if I'm gonna.
Sure.
So yeah, and obviously when they started the meetings and the different groups that started this process, there was an initiative for the 4-H purpose of it to rebuild the barns behind the Smith Building. And then when that process started, there was an issue with the condition of the ground, and it was recommended that, it was told that we couldn't build there because the ground wasn't stable enough to build that kind of facility there. So
it's going to be cost prohibitive to put the right foundations in because that's not virgin ground; it's fill ground.
It's fill ground, right? So they have pretty much everybody has agreed. We haven't signed an agreement yet, but it's in the works to move it over to the same side of the road as the Saddle Club is, adjacent to the Saddle Club. And that would put the Expo Center and the 4-H facility for everything over there. And again, that would house 4-H everything is horse and ponies, horse and pony would still be with the Saddle Club, but they would be side by side, adjacent to each other.
All right. Very good. Well, we're at that point in the show where we get to final thoughts. If people want to, have we covered? Is there any other major issue in the campaign that we haven't hit, or have we flogged the horse to death?
pretty much, you covered everything. Hopefully, I've answered your questions and been able to make some sense of what I was saying. I guess I'm going to go back to a topic that I'm probably going to kick myself for doing
Camaro
this.
story?
No, the Camaro story is a Camaro story. But, I'm going to go back to the wind issue. I'm not necessarily pro-wind. I'm not necessarily anti-wind. But I'm also not, I understand. It's sort of like the CAFO issue. With anything, there's two sides. Sometimes there's more than two sides, 3 or 4 sides. And for us to listen to all those sides, take that in, I feel, as an individual, and I feel as a commissioner, that there is and can be a middle of the road. And I've told a lot of people this over the last few months. When we get done with this, the people opposed to it aren't going to be happy. The people that want it aren't going to be happy. The companies aren't going to be happy. And probably the 3 of us commissioners aren't going to be happy. So when the dust settles on this, everybody's going to walk away and everybody's going to be happy. But that means compromise. And we're going to come to something that at least everybody can live with. They won't be happy, but they'll be able to live with it.
Sure.
Yep. So I know you're not taking money for your campaign, but if people want to volunteer their time, walk with you, help put out yard signs, how do people get in touch with the campaign to do that?
Well, I have a Facebook that, I'll be honest with you, I don't look at myself. My wife manages that for me, and she takes care of it. She keeps me informed of what's on there, and so if they want a yard sign, I'm starting to put them out now. If they want to Facebook me, my wife will get me the information, and I'll get you the sign. If you want to, there's going to be a few Saturdays here coming up in the near future that I'll be walking door to door in different parts of the community, and I'm probably going to put that schedule on the Facebook. And if you're in that area and you want to help, there will be a meeting place where we're going to start off with, or Facebook it and tell my wife so she can tell me, and I'll be glad to get you some handout material, and you can go walking with us.
Well, very good. So City Councilman Aaron Dickin messaged us and said that I have to get you to read some Morgan Freeman because you've got the voice of Morgan Freeman on the air. So I need you to read this meme for me for the people of Henry County.
To read this?
No, read this right here.
Oh.
Yeah. Famous quote.
Get busy living or get busy dying.
There you go, Aaron. Don't say we never did anything for you, sir. All right. Well, thank you, Butch, very much for hanging out with us.
Brother
Awesome.
A lot more.
You like Aaron's? Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron's brother's a lot better.
Yeah, Wes.
You think
You're
so?
a big Wes
Wes
fan.
Dickin?
Yeah.
Could Wes run for mayor of Newcastle?
He'd give it a dickin'. You guys see what I did there?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Butch, for joining us. We'll see if Danny's got any other questions for you or things to ask about.
I think I'm out. I appreciate all your service. You and your family have given up a lot to do everything you have in the community, and you continue to do so. So I know you get a lot of ridicule, and it's probably not worth the time and effort half the time for you. But
Danny shakes his head all the time at the volunteer stuff I get myself into, going, why the hell do you do this? And I'm sure he feels the same way.
I don't have the patience for it, so I really do admire it. It's really impressive, and Rebecca does the same thing. So,
and we enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy doing this job.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy dealing with people. I enjoy talking to people, even if when they walk away they're not happy. As long as I'm honest with them and give them, the best shot that I can give to them, then that's the best I can.
But it gets so personal so often, and people get mean and nasty, and you want to walk away and just say, I'm not a shitty guy. Why are you being hateful to me? But, you guys handle it really well. So,
but they're very passionate about what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And what they believe may be right. But they're very passionate about that. So I don't get upset about that when they say I'm a crooked or this, that, and another. I mean, they believe that, and they have the right to believe that.
Right.
So, being a cop for 39 years, being threatened,
mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
Right. Well, thank you anyway.
You ever watch Parks and Rec and just watch the community forum meetings and go, yep, I know the feeling. Nope.
I've a long time thought about that. And in fact, whenever I was in Florida, I ran into a guy who was down there. We ended up talking for a long time, and he's like, the only thing I know about Indiana is Parks and Recreation. And I was like, well, you pretty much know everything about where I'm from. Every small town in Indiana, I feel, is the same way.
We don't have Little Sebastian, but we have the Doughboy. All right, Dakota, final thoughts. We've already got our first Patreon subscriber, by the way, facebook.com/Patreon.
Yep. That's right. Actually, you know what? We better reload the page and make sure.
We got one so far.
We still have the
Brantley
one.
Spicer is in at $23 a month already.
That's right.
I don't know how he decided on 23, but we're thankful for every
I think
dollar.
he's 25, and then Patreon takes their little
they
cuts.
steal from us.
Yeah, they
it's
take
like
their cut.
taxation.
Yep.
Oh man, I bet the county gets their VIG off of it too.
Hey, my road has
that's
2
all right,
lines.
Oh.
That's all right. I will take it, Brantley. And Brantley better encourage everybody to get us to the $150 mark a month, because I can tell you right now that my wife is super excited to try to start this podcast, and she's really big into like conspiracy theories. She's
You mean
not
like that conspiracy that says that if the commissioners rezone that one parcel to light industrial, that it's going to be a windmill laydown area for the big construction job?
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard that
Truth to
before too.
one.
Yeah. Of course, my question to you is on conspiracy theories: is your wife going to be upset because you didn't know her name at the beginning of this podcast?
I don't know.
Okay. Hopefully she didn't watch it.
Yeah, let's hope not. Well, she's in the other room. I think she was. She at least heard us. But anyway, so she's really excited to start that podcast. She likes researching conspiracy theories because she's, it's one of those things where both of us, like at nighttime, whenever you're laying down, it's like, how do people believe this stuff? Like,
and then you look over and she's sitting right next to you.
No, she's not a conspiracy theorist herself, but I think that one of her things is she just she loves like researching things. Like, she just loves researching stuff and trying to find facts about things. So that's what we're really interested in. It. Once again, our goal for that is $150 a month for 17 cents a day. Just 17 cents. Like, you can find that in your couch cushions every day. That is your $5 a month subscription to the Boss Hog of Liberty, and you will get a private shout out, or not a private, but a public shout out from us, and then joined into a private Facebook group. And then 33 cents a day, man. The perks really jump up really fast.
It's like we're paying for starving kids in Africa.
Yeah, that's right.
Sarah McLachlan with puppies in the background right
In
now.
the arms of the angel. No, but by 33 cents a day, that's only $10 a month. And you can donate that to us on the Patreon account, and that will give you access to a private RSS feed that is any, behind the scenes audio, behind the scenes video that we produce, and you will see that. You will get that first. But most importantly, we are the most independent source of news and journalism in Henry County and in this whole area. Really, I mean,
we're your only
people,
local talk radio that you got.
Oh my gosh,
this is it.
And video sources everything, so it's like I said, man, it's a really big deal, and we need people to support us. Like, I mean, I don't know how much time you spend a month, but I feel like we're pretty equal.
Yeah, I don't want to add up the time. I'll cry.
Yeah, it's like a part-time job, and I mean, it's not really about the money because we're not going to be pocketing any of this. It's going to be going straight towards the studio that we're going to build to make us seem more professional, but we will still keep the jokes flowing.
Lori Hall wants to know if this is only a political podcast. No, but it is political season. We've had everybody on here, from Robin Miller, the IndyCar guy, to we've had people that live out of their van just for the sport of it, to friends of ours that run golf courses. It's a general interest show.
Actor and model Ben Smith.
Yeah, Ben Smith from Newcastle. All kinds of different folks on here. It's a general interest show. A couple weeks ago, we had Blonde and Brunette on, and that was very little politics in that one. But right now, it's election season. It's primary election season, so we're in that series doing the local government. Follow Dakota at Tokad Savad on the Twitter.
Yep, at Tokad Savad on the Twitter. We now have a Boss Hog of Liberty Twitter page. And I actually tweeted from my Twitter account the other day, and it got one like, and that was from Jeremiah.
Because it said Dakota tweeted.
Yep, that's right.
All right, final things from me here, real quick. There's some more road construction coming. I don't know if it's on your radar yet or not, but I-70 is getting some work in Henry County. I-70 over the Flat Rock River, both those bridges are getting replaced this year. And next month's letting, So if you guys travel
It's like
to
you're
Ohio,
bidding on these jobs.
I sold one. I sold one, and the other one I'm bidding on in a couple weeks. I saw it today. I-70 over the Wilbur Wright Road over the I-70, bidding next month as well. So we got.
So you got your work cut out for you.
Hopefully, if I get it, it's all. I have to be cheap. It's not guaranteed, even though I live here. Couple cool things, announcements. The 4-H Youth Day of Service is coming up in Henry County, Memorial Park. 9 a.m. on Saturday, April 28th. If kids want to show up or anybody wants to show up, it's going to be sponsored by 4-H, but we're going to be working out at Memorial Park. So a real opportunity to help participate in the county's future. Very excited. Dakota got the Patreon set up. We've got these brand new Shure microphones that I'm going to protest for a long time because I'm trapped. Yeah. I can't move around the way I normally like to.
Butch, it was just like the show notes. As soon as I started writing show notes, Jeremiah hated them.
I felt like he was boxing me in.
He wanted this to be free form and like an impromptu class, like we were some hipsters in downtown Indy. And then now we had a podcast a few months ago to where I was like, we'll just go, we'll go free on this one. No show notes. And he actually ended up writing show notes the day before.
I did. I made my own because I couldn't take it.
So I know that these mics are going to be the exact same way. He's going to fall in love with them, and then he's going to go do a podcast like the one he did up in Maryland, and they're going to have condenser mics like we had before, and he's going, I hate these now.
That's the way it goes. Thank you, everybody that's watching and listening and for subscribing to the Patreon page. It's going to be the lifeblood to keep this show going, to help pay for these microphones. This show is going to go as far as the fans and supporters are going to take us, and we're trying to do community service with it. We set up at one of the recent park board meetings. I think we're going to be at the next Memorial Park Board meeting. We're going to elbow our way into the front row at the commissioners' meeting and record a few of those too and make it available to the public. So we do all of that with the support of the people and the public, and we thank you very much. Until next week, I think we have Betsy Mills next week.
Betsy Mills, that's right.
Betsy Mills running for Henry County Council in the western part of the district. So she's a really interesting person. We're excited to have her on. She's challenging, and it's going to be an interesting episode. So look forward to that a week from Thursday, or a week from now. We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeareLibertarians.com.